building a baseboard, creative battening and determining levels. Hi, welcome back to Halton Warren 009. I'm Mark, and today, yes, we're going to start on the baseboard for the estate manager's yard. It's a bit of a mouthful that. So what I've decided to do, baseboard 1 is the estate manager's yard, baseboard 2 is the station, baseboard 3 is the board behind me, baseboard 4 is the river scene, and baseboard 5 will be the Halton St Mary little village reversing loop, etc. So let's get on with it. Right, baseboard number 1. First of all, I've got to obviously batten this out to give it some strength. It is, if I remember rightly, 9mm plywood, but it still could warp, so it needs some stiffening on it. Now, if I was just to put battening around the edges and a 2 or 3 across or diagonally across to stiffen it up and give it some rigidity, I've then in the problem that I've got to make sure I don't foul the track that's on the Helix below. I've still got to give clearance for the trains to be able to get below underneath this, off the Helix, underneath this board, then back onto the main layout. So if I just batten it, and the battening I've got is 33mm, I think, so 33mm plus I would have to give a 50mm gap for the trains to get through. What we're talking, 85mm, say 100mm, 4 inches. If that board sits 4 inches above the station board, that I've got to put in a slope or a gradient to get the trains from the station board up to this level. In the short distance I've got, that's got to be like this. It's got to be far too steep. The trains will never get up to it. So what I've got to do is put out my battening to leave little alleyways for the trains to get through underneath. And if I can do that, I can probably bring this board down by 2 inches or so, which hopefully will just give me about 3/4 of an inch to an inch a step to come up. And I think I can cope with that. The other thing I've got to watch out is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 point motors on this. So again, I don't want those point motors to be hanging. I'm using DCC Concepts point motors, so that they're not that big, but I just don't want them fouling up the line, getting in the line. So I've got to make sure that I can get the battening in, still giving me room to get the point motors in, and also the battening in to give me clearance underneath, and the point motors are not in place where they're going to dangle directly over the track on the Helix so that the trains don't crash into them. So I've got a nice clear run underneath the Helix and I won't have any issues. But the first idea is just to line this up to see what clearance I have got underneath, starting with the point motors, I think. So if I line this up with the end, because what I want is enough runoff at this end of the plan to give me the maximum slope on this branch line from the station up here. Obviously the longer I've got, the less the gradient will be coming up to it. So I'll put that right against the back. This is against the side edge, which again might not be too good because I'm losing space then at the back here to put the buildings and the scenery in. So I actually want that to come forward a bit. So if I bring it there, because I still want a bit of service area, so just bring that in. So the edge of the board is here, and that just gives me a nice bit of clearance there. Will it work? So just putting my hand on, basically put my finger on the plan and then try and touch it from the other side, and I can feel already that's directly over the track, so that's not going to work. So if I move it in a bit, that's better. I'm going to lose that space at the back, and if I put that there, that's it. I've got clearance for that point motor then, so that's fine. That's where that needs to be. Right, so I'm going to do left to right and then I can keep myself in order. So that one's clear there, there's absolutely nothing underneath it. This is the next. Right, sorry about that. That was the missus. She was only in the house. She could have walked up and talked to me. No, maybe not. She's all dressed up. She's going out to lunch, some book club deal or something. Right, so where were we with this? We want to make sure that we've got clearance for the point motors underneath, so they're not fouling the track. So starting from left to right, so we've got some sort of order going on. There'd be a point motor about here, which is clear. There's nothing under there. Point motor here, again clear. Point motor here, so number 3, which is again is plenty of room. Point motor 4 is going to be there, and that is just right on the edge. So what I'm going to do, if I can find my pencil, is just mark the fact that that's got to come down. And if I bring the end of that point down 2 places, my goods shed can still go on the end there, which is fine, but the point's going to be out of the way, so that's fine. So that one's got to move 2 squares. So that was that one. This is the next point. I think that's going to be alright. If I can get my arm under it. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing there. It's a nice hollow. So the next one is here, and that is directly above. And this one is just here, and now I've moved this sheet in a bit, that's fine. So this is the one I've got real problems with. I'm going to have a think about that. See if I can realign it. Maybe bring a longer line in here, curve it off, use a right hand point and bring that in there instead. So I might try that actually. The alternative would be to put a point motor mounted on the top here, but the space is a bit tight. So I think the idea is we'll bring that point along here a bit more to say here, have a curved track coming into it, and then have that coming off that way. So as long as we've got a head shunt here, where we can get at least two locos in, I'm quite happy. I say 2 locos, one it comes up here and services, which is fine. If I want to play the fact I've got a disabled engine, then I can pull one in with pull the disabled one in with a working engine, and then push them back into here. So I have got room to play here. An engine's about that long, so 1, 2, yeah, I could get it in there. So that's probably what I'll do, is turn this point round, make it a right hand point instead of left hand, and just curve it in a bit further along. So I know my points are going to work. I'm quite happy with where this is at the moment. Oh, there's one more point at the back here, and I'm sure that's going to be alright because the track is here, so that's well out the way, so I'm fine. So what I'm going to do, and I did have a magic marker here somewhere and I've probably lost it, so for now the trusty old pencil again, what I'm going to do is just mark that off there. So I know just where this comes in. That's it. Right. So the next thing to do is consider the battening and the points and the point motors. Now obviously I've got a lot of point work around here, and I've got some in here, so I can't have battens coming across in these areas because they're just going to foul up. Got point motor there, 2 point motors there actually. Another point motor here, so this is busy with point motors, point motor there and another one there, so again this is busy, and point motor there. So I'm okay this end, I can put batten across here, batten across here, and then what I'll do I think is put the other battens across sideways. But what I've also got to do is work out where the track needs to run underneath. It's a bit of a jigsaw this. What's that game called? Tetra or something, is it? Right, so I've got to start considering where the battens are going to go with the track underneath. So I've got to plot where this track is. So what I need to do, as I say, is work out where the track is going to run. And you can probably just work out the fact that I've already got some lines on here, and I made a mistake. Now I did film this, but I kind of didn't film it because the camera wasn't switched on properly. But all I did was lined my template up with the centre of the track that side, so this would actually lay in here, and the start of the curve this side, and then drew my line round. It's not lining up at the moment because the board is upside down and obviously there's a gap, so this would be the front and this would be the back. But you can see what I've done. I've drawn a line here so I know where the curve of the track runs. Likewise, I've gone to the back and done the same thing there, made the same mistake, didn't quite line it up properly. But anyway, so that's where the track is underneath the board, and I've got to give it a corridor to come round, so my battening must be outside of 2 inches either side. Right, so the other thing we wanted to do was to plot where the points are, and if I bring back this plan and lay it back on there, I know this board's round the wrong way, but this is just to show you how I've worked around this. Now obviously I need to mark where the points are on the back of the board, because that's where the battening is going to go. If I just use this on top, I'm going to be trying to fiddle around, where does the batten go, where does the batten go? So I've got to mark where these points are on the back of the board, and there's 2 ways I thought about doing that. The first one was just to get a square, line it up on the edge of the board, get my nice long steel ruler, make sure it's square, get a pencil, draw the line, then draw the line at the back, turn the board over and do the same on the other side, draw down. So it's be 2 lines this side, one for the start of the point, one for the back of the point. Then I'd have to get the lines this way round as well, draw 2 lines through here, copy them down on the edge and then draw them back, and where those 2 lines intersected with those 2 lines I could go point 1. Thing is, I've got 7 lots of points on here. That would be 28 lines. I might make the mistake, although I would do it carefully and slowly, but you never know, and then mark each box as I can. But you've got 28 lines on the back already. Then I've got to do the lines for where the different battens are going to go as well. The back would have just been a mishmash of lines and I think totally confusing. So what's the other way of doing it? Well, I could just put this plan on the back of the board as it is now. But when I turn the board over, I want this loop at the back of the board. Now if I mark it on here and turn the board over, that loop's going to be at the front of the board. So what I need to do is redo this plan but in mirror image, and I'll show you how I did that now. As you can see, we're back in AnyRail. The first thing we have to do is highlight or select all of the track plans that we want to flip around. So normal thing, left click your mouse button, drag the cursor down. As you do, the track plan all turns to green to show that it's been selected. And you will also notice that the ribbon at the top here has changed and we now have a button saying flip. So if we click on flip, it changes the plan horizontally for us. If we flip again, it just takes it back the way it was, but we want it reversed, so we'll click on it a 3rd time, and now all I have to do is print that off. So as I showed you the other day, just go on File, find Print, and we are going to suppress the empty pages because we don't want those printed. We just want the pages with the plan on, and we've got our ratio as 1:1, so we're ready to go. So we just go back up to the top and push print, and off we go. Back in the shed, we've now brought the mirror image of the plan down. I just wanted to make sure that it is accurate and it is the right way round. So this baseboard, the wooden board at the moment, is upside down. So this area here, when I flip the board over, will come to the back, which is right because this is where the buildings will go. Then we've got the loop for the goods branch, which is this bit. This will be the engine shed, and the engine shed will be down here. So again, when we flip it over, it's in the right place. The train's still coming from this end, which again is right. The only other thing I want to do, and if I can find the original plan, is just make sure that it's printed off accurately. So I'm going to lay that over there. It's all upside down. I still want this intact, so I'm being a bit careful. But yeah, if I lay that across the top, I can see that the tracks are in line, and if we do it the other end, we again can see that the tracks line up there. So we know this is as perfect or as good as it can be. So the next thing to do is make sure that I know where the tracks are running underneath. So I'd already drawn these lines, as I said, so it's just lining the template up with those lines, and then I've drawn the curve of the Helix track on both ends, so I know where that goes now as well. Right, so we're to the point now where we can start planning where the battening is going to go. The other thing we've got to consider is where the Helix is, and I'll take all this board away in a moment, is that when the Helix comes around, we've obviously got this oval. We've got to put some sort of support in that goes up through the centre of the Helix to support this and make sure that it is a decent level above the track that comes out here, so that we know that the trains can clear this top level of the Helix and come out. So I think what I'm going to do next is plan and maybe build that support in the middle. And then once I've got that, then I can work out where it's going to fit onto this board, and then I can work out from there to get the rest of the battening. So this is the hole I've got to work with, or the well if you like, of the Helix. So what I've got to do is construct a framework to go in here, which will be approximately that height actually. So I'm going to put 4 props in and then frame it out. The top of that will need to be 5 centimetres above the height of the track, which will give me my clearance for the trains coming out, because then the top board will sit on there, and as I say, I'll have at least a 5 centimetre gap for the trains to come out. This actually slopes down here, so this isn't too much of a worry. So I need to determine how high these have actually got to be. Right, hopefully you can see what I've done here. This is the little jig I made up to make sure that all the levels of the Helix were at 50mm, giving each train enough room to clear through. So I've used it again here. The baseboard for the estate manager's yard actually finishes here, so that's a couple of millimetres short of that, so I know I've got plenty of clearance here for it to come through. What I've done is just put a batten on top there, put the spirit level on top, and then adjusted the far end so that I've got this at, as you can see, 0, so that's dead flat. All I need to do now is work out how high I need to do the support at the bottom, and that is 15¼ inches. So that's what I'm going to work out on, 15¼ inches all the way around. That will be the top of the support. Then when the board rests on top of that, I know I've got sufficient clearance for a train to get in and out. So one of the things I had to do was to determine where these points were going to be located, so that I made sure that the framework I produced underneath, or built underneath, would be clear. So as you can see, what I've done is use the plumb line, and I've put that over the top of where the point is actually on the diagram, and then I used a couple of others that I've got as well and put them over the point where these points are. And then once they're all strung up, I took away this main board and then just lowered very carefully the plumb line so that I can make sure that there was gaps below those in the new framework. This is the new framework I've come up with. As you can see, it's nice and firmly fixed in place. These are the gaps. I used the plumb line to make sure that the point motors would hang over them and they wouldn't get in the way, hence this batten is here and not here. This is very rigid. You might not be able to pick it up on here, but there's a couple of studs here, and the baseboard actually sits between this frame and those studs, and that helps to keep it in place. As you can see as well, I've tidied up the wiring as well. Right, so this is the underside of the baseboard. I'm not sure this has got enough battening in it. The framework I just showed you obviously supports this area in here, so that gives it a bit more support. Now I was worried about the length of this actually bending long ways, so it was like that. What I actually found out is the warp goes from side to side. So I've got 3 battens in here, which seems to have done the trick. It straightened out the bit of the warp in there. This is nowhere near as complicated as I thought it was going to have to be. once I put the baseboard on and start looking, the amount of clearance I had between the track and the baseboard was more than I actually thought I was going to get. Now, one issue I did have was that when I put this in place, I was talking about levels, and I still found that by the time I did all this, the baseboard was now 2 to 3 inches above the station. The views aren't very clear on this video because I'm having to film inside at the moment. It's throwing it down outside, it's wet and it's cold and it's horrible. Anyway, I've got the baseboard built. You can see what I've done with the battening. As I said, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to have to kind of build it all over the place and put little channels in. I've done as much battening on there as I think I can do without fouling points and track work. And then by the time it's screwed to that framework I've made in kind of the well of the Helix as well, I think that's going to strengthen it up enough that I shouldn't have any problems with warping. Now, the problem I did have was when I built this and put it all together, where I thought I was going to have about a 3/4 of an inch gap between the station and the estate manager's yard, it actually turned out to be 2 to 3 inches. And there was no way I could get a decent gradient or a low enough gradient between the two boards so that I could run trains up there. They were just not going to make that slope. So, bit of surgery, I got out the old tenon saw and I actually cut the top layer of the Helix off. So it's now one layer lower, and that's dropped it by 2 inches, and that's made things a lot better. It has caused a further issue, and I'll go into that now. Right, bit of a long shot here, but I hope you can see what's happening. So we've got the lines here. So we've got the one from Halton and Barnabas, we've got the one from Helix. The idea was they came together, split again, went into this run round loop or this loop, so that a train could come in, wait, and then the next one goes out and wait. So that was a dream of mine. I love seeing that because the train can come in, they swap over the tokens and they go off on their individual ways. The issue I had was with this point here and the line coming up to the estate manager's yard, whether I could get enough slope on there to get the train in and out that could actually operate without slipping and just coming to a standstill. I was talking about moving this point down to that end, and then I said the trains would have to go out and go past the loop to then come back in and reverse in, and would that be operationally acceptable? And I thought no. Now my issue is that because I've dropped the, or one of the reasons might be because I've taken that top level off the Helix, the line now comes off the Helix and comes in at a lower level. So this works fine in 2D, but once you start working in 3D, the actual slope coming up from the Helix comes to about here before going into the station area. And that obviously means that these points would be down here, the new points there, and it's just not room to fit a train in. So I've had to have a rethink. So I've actually jumped ahead now. I'm quite tied up over the next 2 or 3 weeks up to and over Christmas. So I thought I'm just going to get ahead. I won't film it. You've seen other people do this kind of thing anyway. So I thought let's just get on with it and explain about it later. So let's get rid of this and I'll show you what I have actually done. Right, just move you in a bit so that we can see. Right, so I'll move the camera around in a moment so we can get a better view of this. But this at the back here is where the line comes up from the Helix. That will be the station. The loop has gone totally, and that means that I'm not worried now about the operational correctness of whether the trains come in or out. So what I'm going to do is turn the camera off, just reposition it a bit more so you can see what I've done. After all that, it seems probably better if I just handheld the camera. So we're now coming off the existing part of the layout here. We come round, we're going to have a point there, so the trains can come into the station, or they can go up onto the branch line up to Halton and Barnabas, and there'll be another point here so they can come round on this line and then go into the estate manager's yard. If I bring this round a bit more, you'll see those two different tracks there. And they'll come up here. Right, so both these two, the into the estate manager's yard and Halton and Barnabas, at the moment come onto the edge of this board, and it's a nice easy transition. All these levels now are under 2%. These actually are just verging on 1%, so they're a nice level. And then with the Halton St Barnabas line, that will actually come through the back here, and it won't take up too much room, because what I'm going to do is bring it in a loop and then take it in here over the top of the Helix track, and there's plenty of room to do that. I've got room clearance from about here backwards, so the line can come through and then join onto there. And if I raise it up as well, what it means that once the buildings are in on this estate manager's yard, I should just get glimpses of the train going behind those buildings, so that'd be quite nice. Right, putting this on the open framework as well, this now gives me the flexibility to do what I want. What I said earlier was I want to extend that hill at the back round here and have a town scene on it, so there's plenty of room to do that. The station's here, so I can probably get a little road going up and joining up with those houses. This area here, I can either do fairly flat and put some buildings on it. I think I might do a little hollow in there and put maybe a pond in there. This side I'm definitely going to bring down onto a valley side. The hill will obviously come down and then back up to here, but I think that'll work quite nice. That'd be quite a nice little hollow there. There is room at the back here as well if I just take you around. So here I can put a little slope in again, and then just gradually lose that slope until they level off. With the station, the plan now is to have one platform on here for this line, and then a little like a barrow crossing, wooden barrow crossing with some steps to come up, with another barrow crossing, a little bit of a platform in here as well for the trains going off to Halton St Barnabas. So it's going to be a split level platform, but I think that's going to work quite well. Okay, so that's where I am now. It's taken a couple of weeks to get to this stage. Things have obviously changed. I wasn't expecting to take the Helix apart. Well, I didn't. I just cut the top edge of it. But losing the loop, as I say, wasn't over happy with that, because I do like loops for some strange reason. But to put that point down this end, and as I say, would it be operationally acceptable to have trains come down, go past the loop and then back into it? I can't see it was, but I've lost that problem now. The operation of the trains now will be that once the new trains coming out, will come out, if they're going that way, they'll come out with the loco in front, coaches behind, come round here and back into this platform, load up with passengers and go out again. If they're going that way, they'll be propelled out, the empty coaches with the loco in front, and then when they come round here, they go either going to there or going to there. That is a prototypical move. We do it at Leighton Buzzard Railway, and I'll get onto that at Leighton Buzzard Railway in a second. But yeah, so that's interest. You know, now to propel the coaches down as well, we need to get the loco on the front in the estate manager's yard. So that means more operational ideas to come forward on there. I haven't tested any of this yet. I have had a problem. I thought I got rid of the mice in here. I've blocked up the holes. I think they're coming through the door, just coming under the door. I used to keep bird food in here, which I don't anymore. And I keep it clean in here. As I say, blocked up the holes. The little devils are still getting in here somehow. But yeah, so I've sent away for a new power supply thing to get the NCE up and running again. But as I said, these are not very steep. They're around 1%, so they shouldn't cause a problem. This is the steepest curve. That's 12 inches, which the engine should be able to cope with. The others are in excess of 18 inches, so I shouldn't have a problem. So I'm going to mothball this now until the new year. In the new year, I will get the cork laid, and I will start laying track, get the point motors in. This isn't secured down, well, it is by 2 screws at the moment, because I need to lift this out and put 2 point motors in here. That board there is easy enough, it just slots out to do the point motors. Now the reason I'm leaving it to the new year, and this is where the Leighton Buzzard Railway comes in, I volunteer down there as a guard, and with Christmas coming up, we're running Santa specials and I'm involved in that. So I think I've got 2 duties where I'm a guard, and then I've got another 6 duties where I'm either Santa's helper or doing the mince pies and punch. So, and then there's family commitments. Oh, what? My son's already been down, so that one's out of the way. But yeah, so the next 3-4 weeks are going to be quite busy, and I've got other things to sort out as well. So I'm going to leave this now to the new year. I've got one more video coming out between now and the new year, so you might look forward to that, you might not. I'm waffling now, so I'm going to call it a day. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.